My friend, before we begin, I want you to take a deep breath and just for a moment, let the noise around you fade away. I know life hasn't been easy lately. You've been praying, hoping, and waiting for answers that seem delayed. You've done everything you know how to do, and yet it feels like heaven has gone quiet. You've asked, God, are you still there? Do you still see me? Are you still working? But today, I want to tell you something that will shift your entire perspective. God is not silent because He has forgotten you. He is silent because He is working. The same God who hung the stars in perfect order is arranging every detail of your life right now. Quietly, carefully, purposefully. And though you can't see it, everything is coming together exactly as it should. This message is not just another talk. It's an invitation to exhale, to stop striving, and to find peace again. Over the next few moments, I want you to stay with me because we're going to walk through truths that will calm your mind, restore your faith, and remind you that God's silence is never His absence. You're about to discover that when you relax, trust, and let God work in silence, miracles start forming in the background. What you thought was delay is divine design. What you thought was over is only just beginning. So don't click away. Don't lose focus. This message was meant for you, for this exact moment in your journey, because before this video ends, I believe you will feel peace again, hope again, and know deep in your spirit that God is working it out for you right now. God works best in silence, not in noise. The silence of God is one of the most misunderstood seasons in a believer's life because human nature often equates silence with absence. When prayers seem unanswered and heaven feels quiet, the heart begins to panic, wondering if God has turned away. Yet in truth, the silence of God is never the same as His absence. Silence is His strategy. It is the sacred space where He performs His deepest and most intricate work away from human interference and understanding. Just as a seed grows in the dark soil before breaking through the surface, God's greatest works are formed in hidden places before they are revealed to the world. When everything around you seems motionless, that is often when heaven is most active. You cannot see roots growing beneath the ground, but without them, no tree can stand. Likewise, you may not see the hand of God moving in your situation, but beneath the surface, He is strengthening foundations, aligning people, and orchestrating events that will make sense in due time. The silence of God is the workshop of miracles. The noise of worry and fear makes it hard to recognize what He is doing. But when you learn to quiet your mind and trust His unseen hand, you begin to perceive His movement even in stillness. Silence tests your faith. It reveals whether your trust is in God's presence or in your perception of His presence. Anyone can trust when they feel something happening, but true faith stands firm when there are no visible signs. In silence, God matures you, purifies your motives, and teaches you to depend on His promise rather than on your emotions. Silence is His way of shifting your focus from your surroundings to His sovereignty. When you stop chasing explanations, you start receiving revelation. In the natural world, a craftsman works quietly while creating something valuable. You do not hear the sound of a masterpiece being painted. You only see it when it is finished. The same is true of God. He does not need to announce every move He makes in your life. His silence is the brushstroke of divine artistry. It means He is working on details too delicate for you to understand now. If He revealed every step, you might interfere, rush the process, or doubt His method. So instead, He works quietly, perfectly, and purposefully. When you cannot trace God, You must choose to trust Him. Silence is not a punishment, but a sign that He trusts you enough to wait. It is in the quiet moments that your faith grows stronger, your patience deepens, and your peace becomes unshakable. The silence of God is a sacred invitation to believe that He is closer than ever, arranging everything for your good. And when the time is right, what He has been building in the unseen will suddenly be revealed in the light. Faith is obedience without explanation. It is choosing to trust even when the path ahead is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain, and when the instructions make no logical sense. Real faith begins where understanding ends. It is easy to believe when everything aligns with your expectations, but genuine trust is tested when you are asked to move forward without knowing what comes next. Faith does not demand proof. It responds to promise. It says yes to God even when there is no visible evidence that things will work out. This kind of obedience flows from a heart that knows the one giving the command cannot fail. It is not blind submission. It is confident surrender. Throughout life, there will be seasons where you are called to step out of comfort zones, to give when it feels risky, to stay silent when you want to defend yourself, or to wait when every impulse tells you to run ahead. These are the moments that shape your spiritual strength. God does not test faith to see you struggle. He tests it to prove that what you carry inside is real. When you obey without explanation, you activate divine power that reason can never access. The natural mind wants to understand every detail, but faith walks forward while saying, even if I cannot see it, I know God has already gone before me. A faith-driven obedience often looks foolish to others. Noah built an ark when there was no sign of rain. Abraham left his home without knowing where he was going. Peter stepped out of the boat onto water that could not hold him. In each case, the act of obedience came before the understanding of the outcome. Their faith created a bridge between the unseen and the seen, and it was that bridge that allowed miracles to manifest. The same principle works today. When you obey divine instruction without needing all the answers, you are building a bridge for your own miracle. Faith that waits for explanations is not faith, it is negotiation. God's ways are higher than human reasoning, and if you try to fit His plan into your logic, you will always limit what He can do. Faith chooses to walk even when the light only shines on the next single step. It refuses to be paralyzed by uncertainty because it knows the character of the one who leads. This trust invites peace into your heart because obedience releases control. Once you obey, the pressure shifts from you to God. He becomes responsible for the outcome, and He never fails to complete what He starts. When you walk in faith without demanding explanation, you are saying, God, I may not understand it, but I trust You with it. That posture opens the door to supernatural results. The moment you stop needing to figure everything out, you make room for divine wisdom to flow. Faith that obeys without question becomes a magnet for miracles because it honors God's sovereignty more than human logic, and in that surrender, impossible things begin to unfold. The waiting season is a holy season. It is the place where faith is purified, character is shaped, and destiny is quietly prepared. Waiting is not a punishment. It is divine preparation for what is coming next. Many people despise the waiting season because it feels slow, uncertain, and uncomfortable. Yet it is in this hidden stretch of time that God does His deepest work. When you are waiting, it often feels as if nothing is happening, but in truth, everything is happening behind the scenes. God uses the waiting room to align hearts, open doors, and remove obstacles that could destroy the blessing if it arrived too soon. What you call delay is often God's way of protecting you from premature exposure. Waiting reveals your motives. It tests whether you want the blessing or the blesser. When prayers are answered instantly, it is easy to stay faithful, but when the answer takes time, your heart's true posture is exposed. Will you still trust, still worship, still believe when heaven seems silent? The waiting season becomes sacred when you realize that God's timing is not random but strategic. Every delay has a purpose. God uses it to strengthen your patience, refine your vision, and prepare your capacity to handle what you are praying for. If blessings arrive before maturity, they can crush rather than carry you. Waiting builds the inner strength to sustain what is coming. In nature, no seed produces fruit overnight. The soil conceals it while the roots grow deep, unseen, and silent. The seed does not complain or compare itself to other plants. It simply stays buried until the right season. In the same way, when you are in a waiting season, you must resist the urge to compare your timeline to others. Every person has a different rhythm of divine unfolding. What you think is stagnation is often gestation. Something is forming, growing, and taking shape in the unseen realm. When you learn to rest in that truth, the waiting season becomes a sanctuary of peace rather than a prison of frustration. Waiting is also the season where trust becomes complete. When you can no longer control outcomes or predict results, you are invited to rely fully on God's faithfulness. This is the moment where anxiety must bow to assurance and fear must yield to faith. God never wastes waiting. Each day in the delay is filled with purpose, though it may not be visible to your eyes. He uses that time to fine-tune your heart, teach you gratitude for small beginnings, and deepen your dependence on Him. When the right time arrives, everything unfolds with effortless grace. What once seemed delayed will feel perfectly timed. The waiting season ends suddenly, and the very thing you prayed for will appear as if it had been ready all along. Those who learn to honor the wait come out wiser, stronger, and more anchored in faith. The waiting season is not empty. It is holy ground where your next miracle is quietly being prepared. Peace is the proof of trust. It is the quiet evidence that your faith is rooted not in circumstances, but in the certainty of God's faithfulness. When a person truly trusts, their heart becomes anchored, unshaken by storms, and untroubled by delays. Anxiety and restlessness are signs that we have begun to carry what only God can handle. Many times people pray and still worry, asking God to work while secretly doubting if He will. But genuine trust releases control and chooses peace even before the answer arrives. It is not the absence of problems that creates peace. It is the presence of trust. Peace is not passive. It is a powerful declaration that says, I know who holds my future. When your mind is stayed on God, peace guards your heart like a fortress. The storms may still rage around you, but they cannot enter the place of stillness within you. This is the kind of peace that surpasses understanding. It does not make sense to the natural mind. Others may look at you and wonder how you can smile, how you can rest, how you can remain calm when everything seems uncertain. It is because peace has become your evidence. You no longer need to see the outcome to believe the promise. You are certain that what God began, He will complete. Trust and peace are inseparable. When trust weakens, anxiety rises. When trust strengthens, peace flows. Many believers live in constant tension because they are trying to do God's work for Him. They analyze, overthink, and try to control the process, forgetting that faith is not about figuring everything out. It is about surrendering everything into divine hands. The moment you release your worries, you make room for peace to enter. Worry occupies the same space that peace wants to fill. You cannot hold both at the same time. Trust empties the heart of fear so that peace can dwell freely. Peace is also a spiritual signal that you are walking in alignment with God's will. When you force something that is not meant for you, your spirit feels unsettled. But when you are in step with divine direction, an inner calm confirms that you are on the right path. Peace is heaven's way of saying, keep going, I am with you. It becomes a compass that guides your decisions when logic fails. When peace fills your heart, your prayers change. You stop begging and start thanking. You stop striving and start resting. This rest is not laziness. It is confidence in divine timing. You realize that God's hand never trembles and His plan never falters. Even when everything seems uncertain, peace whispers that the outcome is already secured. The greatest sign of faith is not loud declarations, but quiet assurance. When your heart is still, it tells heaven and earth that you believe. Peace is not only the result of trust, it is the visible proof that you have truly let go and allowed God to take control. God's delays are not denials. This truth is one of the most powerful anchors for a believer's heart, especially in seasons when prayers seem unanswered and progress feels slow. It is easy to mistake divine timing for divine rejection, but what appears as delay is often God's way of protecting, preparing, and positioning you for something greater. The human heart is impatient by nature, always wanting immediate answers. But God operates beyond time. He is not rushing because He already sees the end from the beginning. What may feel like a pause is His process of aligning every detail for your good. His silence is not neglect, it is wisdom. He is never late, but He is never early either. His timing is always precise. Every delay carries purpose. Sometimes what you are praying for is ready, but you are not ready to receive it. Other times you are ready, but the environment around you is not prepared to sustain it. God sees both sides and waits until everything is in perfect alignment. A premature blessing can become a burden if it arrives before maturity. Just as a fruit picked too early loses its sweetness, blessings received before their time lose their strength. God delays to develop your capacity so that when the answer comes, you can carry it with wisdom and gratitude instead of fear and pride. Delays also teach you dependence. When God holds something back, He invites you to draw closer, to learn patience, and to find contentment in His presence rather than in the promise. If every prayer were answered instantly, you would lose the intimacy that forms in waiting. The waiting room becomes a classroom where you learn faith, humility, and surrender. It is there that your roots grow deeper and your trust becomes unshakable. You begin to understand that God's not yet is never a no, but a loving wait. I'm working on something better. In Scripture and in life, every person who walked with God experienced delay before destiny. Joseph waited years in obscurity before stepping into authority. David was anointed as king long before he sat on the throne. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning His ministry. In each case, the waiting was not wasted. It was working. The delay was shaping, refining, and strengthening them for what was ahead. The same pattern is true for you. The longer the wait, the deeper the preparation and the greater the manifestation. When you understand that God's delays are not denials, you stop fighting time and start trusting timing. You learn to rest in the knowledge that every promise still stands, even if it is taking longer than you expected. Delay is not the death of your dream, it is the development of it. When the moment arrives, it will be clear why the waiting was necessary. What once seemed like a setback will reveal itself as divine setup. God's timing will always prove perfect, and what you thought he was withholding, he was actually perfecting. You win when you let go and let God lead. Surrender is not a sign of weakness, it is an act of wisdom. It is the moment when you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight and allow the one who sees the whole picture to take control. Many people lose their peace because they are trying to manage outcomes that only God can orchestrate. They pray for His will but live as if everything depends on their own effort. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means giving over. It means releasing your grip on fear, control, and worry, and trusting that divine hands can carry what human strength cannot. The greatest victories are often born in the quiet act of surrender. When you stop striving, grace begins to flow. When you stop forcing, favor starts to move. Letting God lead is not passive. It requires courage because it means walking into the unknown with confidence in His guidance. You may not know where the path leads, but you trust the one who does. Each time you release control, you open a door for miracles to enter. As long as you insist on steering, you limit what God can do. But when you hand over the wheel, He takes you places you never imagined possible. Letting God lead also means trusting His wisdom above your understanding. There will be times when His direction seems confusing, when circumstances contradict His promises, and when obedience feels costly. Yet those are the moments that define your faith. The outcome of surrender is always peace, because the pressure to perform is lifted. You no longer need to prove, to push, or to panic. You simply rest in the assurance that the author of your life is still writing your story. Every twist and delay has purpose because He knows how to bring beauty out of what seems broken. When you surrender, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is God teaching me through this?" That shift transforms frustration into faith. You start to see how every closed door protected you, how every delay redirected you, and how every disappointment refined you. God's leadership is perfect, but it can only manifest when you stop competing with His plan. He will not force control. He waits for your permission to take over. Once you say, "God, I trust you completely," He begins to align everything according to His design. You win not by doing more, but by trusting more. The battles you surrender are the battles you win because they are fought with divine strength instead of human struggle. Surrender positions you under the flow of grace, where effort gives way to ease and fear gives way to faith. When you let go and let God lead, life stops being a constant fight for survival and becomes a journey of peace, provision, and divine direction. The moment you yield is the moment heaven begins to move on your behalf. Beloved, as we come to the end of this message, remember this powerful truth. You are never alone, and you are never forgotten. Even when heaven seems quiet, God is still speaking through the silence. Even when life feels uncertain, His plan is still unfolding with perfect precision. The waiting, the stillness, the delays, and the surrender, all of it is shaping you, not breaking you. Every moment you choose to relax, trust, and let God work, you are stepping into alignment with divine purpose. You may not see the full picture right now, but one day you will look back and realize that His hand was guiding every step. This is your time to breathe again, to stop wrestling with what you cannot control, and to rest in the assurance that God is working everything out for your good. He has not abandoned your prayers. He is arranging, building, and preparing something far greater than you have imagined. So lift your head, steady your heart, and walk forward with peace. The silence you feel is not empty. It is full of movement, full of answers, and full of love. Trust that the one who began a good work in you will finish it beautifully. Let your confidence rise not in what you can do, but in what He is already doing behind the scenes. Relax in His timing. Trust His heart and let Him lead you into the victory that is already written in your destiny. May peace fill your heart this week. May faith silence every fear. May divine favor surround you like a shield. And may unseen miracles begin to unfold quietly in your life. Good luck on your journey of faith, and thank you for opening your heart to this message. Remember, even when you cannot hear Him, God is still working it out for you. So relax, trust, and let Him finish what He started. Your breakthrough is already on the way.